We were not gods, we only reached too far, for too long, until the stars answered. Final entry of Soluun Vedra, High Scientist of the Core. The heart of TIRUS3 pulsed with light. Miles beneath the frozen crust, a city flourished, one not built on land but grown from the crystalline bones of the planet itself. Towers of radiant opaline twisted upward, catching the filtered reflections of the artificial suns. Strung through the core sky like twin pearls, bioluminescent gardens hung from bridges in blue flame blossoms. Streams of magnetized light curved through the streets, guiding travelers and transport alike. To the people of TIRUS3, the surface was a myth, a wasteland of eternal night and toxic gales. Below, civilization had evolved in radiant seclusion, but now even in paradise the air was tense. Soluun Vedra stood at the edge of Observatory L6, staring at a glowing projection of the solar net array, his fingers steepled in silence. The model pulsed in slow rhythm. The sun's captured rays, threaded from the upper stratosphere, bent, stored and distributed across the core. Beautiful, efficient and deadly. Behind him, footsteps echoed against marble-veined steel. He didn't turn. "You're late."
I was teaching the children. They still ask about the surface, what stars look like, what wind feels like.
We brought them into safety, not silence.
They deserve truth, especially now.
She moved beside him. Though her hair shimmered silver in the light, her eyes, deep violet like the oldest loomstones, remained clear. She touched his shoulder.
You haven't slept.
I can't, not until I'm sure the system will hold.
You mean until you're sure you were right?
The chamber buzzed with electric tension. 12 figures sat in a crescent formation, scientists, generals, philosophers, and the political elite. At the center stood Vedra, sovereign director of TIRUS3, her cloak cut in ceremonial blue, eyes like sharpened glass.
The solar harness has reached full saturation. His voice carried pride and something beneath it. Output exceeds all projected thresholds. 37%. We've bent starlight, General, and made it obey.
Energy saturation means strain. What does your data say about destabilization?
We're monitoring fluctuations.
We warned you 3 cycles ago that the containment arcs weren't stable, that the core's magnetic resonance was changing.
Which is why we reinforced the polar circuits.
Reth, how many cycles can the net hold before harmonic breakdown?
Less than 6?
A beat of silence, then Vedra smiled.
And in that time, how many civilizations will trade with us? How many lives saved from frost death? How many systems transformed?
It isn't about profit.
Everything is. Power creates peace. Or did you think our enemies on Mars and Venus share your noble sentiment?
Don't speak of Mars. They pulled out of the Alliance 2 orbits ago.
Because we betrayed the pact, we used their reflectors without permission. We used Earth's refractors and Pluto's pulse filters. We harnessed their skies.
And you think they'll notice? You think they'll wage war over light?
Not war, something worse, abandonment.
Tamar Solace cradled his youngest daughter as she dozed beside a table of cooling synth fruit and lunar bread. Arya watched her husband with quiet fear behind her smile. Their son, Juno, asked questions that echoed like prophecies.
Father, why do the stars flicker now?
It's the net array, Juno. It catches sunlight and spreads it to our world.
Does the sun like that?
Arya and Tamar exchanged glances.
Some say it does. Some say we should ask it first.
And if it says no?
No one answered. Evening in the core crown was unlike anywhere else in the system. The artificial sky shimmered in opalescent hues, glowing in warm amber that mimicked the dying light of a sun long unseen. In the upper levels of Vault Sora, where glass-laced towers spiraled around magnetic veins, the Vedra household prepared for their traditional convergence meal, the monthly gathering of the Lineage Council. The room was adorned with flickering arcs of resonant crystal, set to pulse in harmony with the solar engine's beat, a beat that had recently begun to falter. Yalira entered behind him, dressed in ceremonial twilight robes woven from nano-threaded silk. Her face was serene, but her eyes scanned every surface as though searching for something out of place.
The current from Sector 8 is inconsistent, and the resonance mirror in the child's wing picked up a phase disruption last night.
Disruption could be stress decay.
Or sabotage, you know that.
Before he could respond, the chamber filled with soft chimes. The other members of the family and council arrived. Soluun's cousin Riel, a physicist who favored weaponized plasma. Councillor Dimai, Yalira's older sister and chief diplomatic liaison. and the twins Tharos and Kali, representing the youth caste. Each arrived with guards masked in ceremonial veils. No one trusted each other anymore. Dinner was served: root glass soup, mineral-baked threll fish, and black fire bread laced with memory root. The food was tradition, a taste of unity in a time of rising fractures.
So, another failure at the vault reactors. That's the fourth this quarter. And yet, our dear High Scientist insists the engine will stabilize.
You think I sabotaged my own project?
No, but I think you trust the wrong allies.
All eyes shifted.
He means Nibiru.
We've all seen the transmissions. They arrive with gifts, but they dig like vermin. Even the children have noticed. Half the street hubs in Lower Sora now speak in borrowed Nibirian dialects.
They offer knowledge we didn't have. They came when Sirius 3 turned away.
But why would they help us? They fear us, don't they? That energy unification would end their grip on the gateways?
Yalira's fingers tightened on her seat.
They didn't come to help us. They came to ensure failure.
There was silence, heavy metallic silence.
We intercepted a pulse script 3 cycles ago. It came through one of the transit relays, hidden in the interference. A signature embedded in the code, old dialect pre-Union, Nibirian intelligence-grade encryption, because you would have dismissed it. Like you dismissed the ghost echoes in the fusion bridge, the shadow protocol failures in Ember depths.
One of our engineers was found dissolved last cycle. Biotech residue matched to Nibirian organic cloaking.
And the new shipments from their embassy. Why do they need direct access to our core samples?
The room began to hum, not from technology but tension. So what do you suggest? Expel them? Risk open war?
Better to bleed now than die slowly. We have to cut them out before they root into our spinal grid.
They already have. You just refuse to see it.
Soluun looked around the table, his family, his allies, now turning into judges.
The crystalline chandelier above pulsed once, then dimmed, as if even the city were listening.
He closed his eyes. For the first time in years, Soluun and Vedra felt doubt.
Outside the chamber, the core sky flickered.
Late that night, Soluun descended into the undervaults, where only black card access passed the magnetic locks. The room beyond was a void of polished stone, but within its center hovered a glowing shard, solar core crystal number 001. It pulsed. He placed his hand on the platform, letting the memory imprint begin. Data washed over his mind, spikes in core temperature, erratic magnetic harmonics, and a pattern, a living pulse. Something had entered the system. He staggered back.
You saw it too. It's alive, Soluun. The array is thinking, reacting, changing. I suspected. When we added Earth's pulse modulators, something shifted. It's not just energy now, it's consciousness.
You didn't report this?
I couldn't. Vedraxa won't shut it down. She'll merge it.
She means to link it to the planetary neural grid.
To make TIRUS3 divine. But if it's already alive and it rejects us...
It won't reject us. It will remake us. She had been listening.
On the 401st cycle of the 9th orbit, the first tremor struck. Buildings did not fall, but they hummed. The core sky flickered and shadows danced where light should have stood still.
Yalira was teaching when it happened. The children screamed as the artificial sun dimmed, then blazed white-hot.
Soluun ran through the halls to the array chamber. What he saw there ended all illusion of control. The core was opening, a fissure at the center, not in the machine. In reality itself, light bled through in impossible angles, burning the floor, warping the walls. TIRUS3 had not just bent the sun's light. They had pierced the boundary between energy and time. The Big Bang had not happened. It was about to. To understand the fall of TIRUS3, one must first understand its heart. Not the solar core, but its people. The civilization beneath TIRUS3's frozen mantle was not monolithic. It was a kaleidoscope of city-states, guilds, and bloodline clans, each with its own philosophies, artistic traditions, and claims to planetary heritage. The underground world was divided into the 3 crowns: Vault Sora, the high-glass sanctum of scholars and dreamweavers; Ember Depths, the industrial colossus where machines were born and buried; Kavra's Reach, a secluded spiritual haven where the last star singers held communion with light. Together, they formed the Tri-Council of TIRUS, a delicate balance of intellect, labor, and spirit. But equilibrium never lasts where ambition thrives. As Soluun and Vedra's solar engine drew closer to completion, Vault Sora gained dominance. Scientific innovation became the chief currency of status. Artists were conscripted into design. The old philosophers of Kavara were sidelined. Even Ember Depths found its traditions of craftsmanship reduced to mere production quotas. It bred resentment and, more dangerously, desperation. In the underlayers of Ember Depths, a radical collective emerged, the Black Synod. Their doctrine was simple. If power was being hoarded above, then revolution must come from below. They infiltrated reactor control nodes, manipulated plasma conduit trades, and struck alliances with outside interests. That's when Nibiru stepped in. Masquerading as rogue traders and lost emissaries, Nibiruan agents made contact with the Synod. Their true intent was far more insidious: intelligence gathering, sabotage, and covert destabilization. Nibiru's high dynasties feared what the solar engine might become. A successful energy unifier would render their own quantum gate networks obsolete, threatening both trade and dominance. So they offered the Synod knowledge, weapons, and a promise of independence. In return, they demanded access. And access they got. Within months, several reactor nodes malfunctioned. Communications between Voltsora and Kavara's Reach began to degrade.
Yalira Vedra herself suspected anomalies in the city's magnetic current, but official records were falsified. Soluun was too deep in his calculations, too intoxicated by the promise of perfection.
By the time the truth surfaced, another power had already taken interest: TIRUS3. The Syrian Consortium, a federation of outer system civilizations, had long considered TIRUS3 a threat to galactic balance.
Their seers, known as the Flowbinders, warned that solar manipulation on such a scale could tear the harmonic threads that tethered the multiverse.
They sent envoys. Soluun ignored them.
They issued warnings. The Ascendancy scoffed.
So TIRUS3 responded the only way they knew how, by launching a silent war.
It began with the fracturing of Project Calaxis, where Syrian-engineered viruses corrupted the solar harmonics and reversed quantum feedback loops.
Towers of light flickered, magnetized streets glitched, artificial suns dimmed, stuttered, then died.
Panic spread.
Fearing full collapse, the Ascendancy invoked martial code. Surveillance increased, civil liberties eroded.
And still, Soluun pushed forward, convinced that one more ignition would stabilize the system.
It was Yalira who uncovered the truth, that Nibiruan agents were using the chaos to steal reactor schematics and repurpose them into portable singularity drives.
By the time she reached the council chamber to testify, it was too late.
Kavara's Reach had seceded.
Ember Depths declared open rebellion.
And Soluun Vedra, once the savior of TIRUS3, stood at the nexus of a civilization tearing itself apart. When Ignition 2 finally launched, it was corrupted. The Nibiruan algorithms clashed with Syrian virus code, fracturing the solar engine's harmonics into an uncontrolled resonance loop. The planetary core didn't just implode, it folded inward and detonated outward simultaneously across multiple dimensions. It was not a bang, it was a scream. The echo spark warped planetary physics, scattered time fields across neighboring worlds, and cast fragments of TIRUS3 into space and subspace alike. From this collapse, chaos became order. The shattered alignment of the 12 original planets, the rebirth of the solar system as we know it, and the beginning of a cosmic era fueled not by truth but by survival, deception, and silence.
Councillor Demai knew what she held in her hands would change everything. The signal crystal, nearly erased by layered cipher spikes, had been passed to her by a dying operative from Vault Ember, a contact long believed compromised. The crystal contained a decoded voice print, a Nibirian diplomat, speaking to a TIRUS3 official, someone from the Ascendancy itself. Once their core breaches, the path clears. The survivors will seek shelter, and in seeking they will bend. You know your place in the new order. It was proof of collusion between high-ranking members of the TIRUS3 government and a Nibirian black cell. Knowing her own life was now in danger, Dime made contact with Kel Vernus, a decorated planetary defense tactician, widely respected, fiercely loyal to TIRUS3, and one of the few who still held sway across the colony zones. They met in secret beneath the Sapphire Archives, flanked by null echo wards and dimensional cloaks. Kel's jaw clenched as he listened to the transmission. "How long?" he asked. "Years," Dime said. "They've been laying this web for decades." Kel vowed to bring the evidence to the council floor during the annual alignment conclave, a direct public confrontation, but he never made it there. 3 nights before the conclave, Kel was found dead. His heart stopped, no sign of toxins or struggle. The death was ruled a resonance failure, a rare spontaneous death attributed to overexposure to core energy. But those who knew Kel also knew he never went near the core fields. Worse still, when the council finally reviewed the crystal, the message had been replaced. The damning transmission was gone, replaced with a diplomatic trade discussion about agricultural bioharmonizers. We've been played, Dim Eye whispered, alone with the false recording. They control the records, the pulse routes, the watchers. They're not just infiltrating. They've already begun the takeover.
Soluun and Yalira's next family dinner was cold, quiet, uneasy. Their daughter, Vedra, a systems archivist in Vault Sora, finally broke the silence.
You knew, didn't you, about the Nibirian operatives? You always brushed it aside.
Soluun set his utensils down slowly. I suspected, but not to this scale.
Father, said Vedra, her voice trembling, Kel was your student, and now he's dead.
Yalira stood, trembling with a storm she had held too long. And what did you expect, Soluun? You pushed the experiments forward. You ignored the warnings. You let the Ascendancy turn knowledge into currency. And now we sit in shadows waiting for the sky to fall.
If I had gone public without full evidence, the system would have collapsed. I was trying to hold us together.
You were trying to protect your legacy, Yalira snapped. You think the sky will forgive you? You think the children will?